Hello and welcome to the Clean Slate Theme Development Tutorial Series. My name is Adam, and today we're going to talk about conditional logic. So, what is conditional logic? Conditional logic performs different actions depending on whether a condition evaluates to true or false. Conditional logic gives you the ability to make your site dynamic, allowing what is displayed to change based on user interaction, content, or other factors. Before we go into conditional logics or if statements, there are some prerequisites that you need to know. The first one is how to use variables in CleanSlate, and the second one is how to use custom page or site data. If you don't know how to use variables and custom page or site data, please check my previous videos to see how to use those two features. Before we talk about conditional statements in CleanSlate, let's look at what a conditional statement looks in plain English. Here we have a basic conditional statement formed as a sentence. So if it's sunny outside, then go for a walk. Else, go to the gym. This seems pretty standard for any language, really, right? If a condition is true, go for a walk. Else, go to the gym. When writing conditional statements in CleanSlate, we follow a similar structure. So in my code editor here, I've got the brand patterns theme running on my local machine using Hammer VM, and I've got this backpage template pulled up right here, as well as in my browser. And down at the bottom of this backpage template, I have this partial to a simple if statement, which I have pulled up right here. So let's look at the syntax for if statements in CleanSlate. You'll notice here that we have this rif tag right here. This is the tag that CleanSlate uses to set conditionals in CleanSlate. And then inside this rif tag, we have several different attributes. The first attribute you see here is value1, and then we have a value for the value1 attribute, and then we have value2, and we have a value for the value2 attribute. And then at the end here we have the operator. So the operator says, is value1 in this case equal to value2? All right. So if value1 is special and value2 is special and they are both equal, and indeed they are, what's going to happen is it's going to show the content inside this if statement. So if I go over to my page right here and hit refresh, I can scroll down and you'll see this first partial right is showing up right here. Okay, so it says simple statement, since v1 and v2 are the same, I will show. All right, and that is what this is saying right here. Simple statement, since v1 and v2 are the same, I will show. And we just have like a couple classes to colorize the background and then a container. This is showing right here. If I change special to something else, it's like this, and hit refresh, you'll notice that that entire block of text and code will disappear because something else does not equal special. Okay, they're not equal. These two values, these two strings, are not exactly the same. So similarly, we can actually change the operator here to something that says something doesn't equal, like value1 and value2 are different. So if we go and save this now, value1 and value2 are different in this statement. This, something else, does not equal this exactly. So what's going to happen is it's going to show the content inside the if statement here. And you can see, since v1 and v2 are different, I will show. And there you have it. We can also perform greater than or less than, or greater than and equal to or less than and equal to. So for example, if we had 1 and 2 right here, it's not going to show because it compares against value 2, and value 1 is less than value 2, right? And if we change this to 3, it's going to show because we are now 3 is greater than 2. And if I change this to 2 and then change this to greater than or equal to, it's going to show because 2 and 2 is greater than or equal to 2. So now that we have the basics of if statements down, let's look at how we can make these more versatile and more useful for us. Our second partial that we have called right here is the wlead partial, and I've got that pulled up right here. And what we're doing right here is essentially saying we're setting v1 to a variable. So if we look at our backpage template, right, we have this hide lead right here. We have actually defined this as a custom page data attribute in our template. So this is going to show up under page properties, custom data, and we'll be able to set a value using custom data right there. So if we look in our wlead partial right here, we are essentially saying if v1 doesn't equal true, then we are going to show what's inside of this our if tag. So if I go over to my site, again, this is this partial right here. It is essentially just outputting a heading 2 tag with a couple of other tags right here. What I can do is I can say, okay, should I hide this lead? If it's true, if it's not equal to true, I'm going to show it. So I'm essentially showing this by default. And we can change how this functions by changing the values we set for our custom page data inside our mock data file. So if I open up my mock data file, you'll notice I have this page key right here, and then further down I have this data key, and then I have this hide lead custom data attribute, custom page data attribute. Now let's remember that our custom page data attribute says if hide lead is set to anything else besides true, we're going to show the stuff in here. So when hide lead doesn't equal true, it's going to show the stuff in here. So if I go over to my mock data file and I set this to true, hit refresh in my browser, you'll notice that I can actually hide that entire section from my page. All right, so I can change this back to null and it'll show up. So hide lead is set to null or false. You know, we can also set it to false and it still shows up. We are essentially not hiding it, right? It says hide lead false, okay? And we can set it to really anything except true, and it's going to stay where it is. It's going to show up. So I could say ABC right here and it still shows. All right? But if I set this to true, it disappears. So that is how to hide or how to show something by default. So what if we wanted to hide something by default? Maybe we're working on a theme that is already in production and we're adding a feature to a couple of pages, but we don't want that feature to be shown on every page. We just want to show it selectively. So in other words, we want to opt in to showing this feature. And this is how we can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and change our variable from hide lead to show lead. We're going to go to our backpage template and change this to show lead. And I'm going to change it in my mock data as well to show lead. And we're going to come back to our lead partial and change a couple of things in here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is actually change the comment above the if statement. This is something that I personally like to do. It kind of puts the if statement in plain English. It'll help you down the road when you come back to your code and you're trying to decipher what's going on. So if you have a complex if statement, I recommend putting a note for yourself above the if statement telling you what's happening. So we are going to, say if show lead is equal to true, we're going to show what's inside the if here. All right. And the second thing that we're going to do here is we're going to remove this doesn't equal and make it equals. Okay. Hit save. And then we're going to check our mock data file. We see that show lead is indeed set to true. So what this is going to do is it's going to say show lead equals true. So true equals true. So we are going to show the stuff inside this partial right here. I go back to my browser and it shows up just like it should, right? Since we are saying show lead, this is true and it is equal to true, it shows up as the partial. So this is how to show something, kind of opt in to showing a partial or a feature on your site instead of showing it by default. For reference, we have documented how to show something by default and hide something by default on our CleanSlate CMS site. If you go to How To's and Tips, Theme Development, Conditional Logic and Loops, and then under there's this if statements with custom data page, custom page data, you can see that we have this hide by default recipe and then the show by default recipe. You can essentially take this code, copy it and modify it to suit your needs right here. So another and slightly different thing that we can do with if statements in CleanSlate is we can actually pass radius tags to the v1 or value 1 and value 2 attributes. So in this case, what I'm essentially doing in this v1 attribute is I'm saying our page template name, okay? And I'm passing this value to this v1 attribute, right? So I'm saying if the page template name is backpage, if it's equal to backpage, show what's going on in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save this, refresh my browser, and note that this is in my layout. So this is in my default layout. So what I'm saying here is if it's a backpage template, show the stuff that is inside this if statement, okay? And I scroll down and you'll see that you are on a page that uses the backpage template. This is the content that we have put right here. You are on a page that uses the backpage template there and there, right? So if I go to a different page, say front page, for example, and I scroll down to the bottom above my footer, you'll notice that that partial is no longer there, right? Because it is checking to see the page template name, and the page template name is not backpage in this case, it is front page. So it will only show up when it's on the backpage template. So in this case, we're showing something that is on the backpage template only. What if we wanted to do like if it equals to backpage, show something, then else do something? So we can do that by just including something that is outside of the if statement, right? We can say if the page template name is equal to backpage, we show this, and then we have this here. We're saying else this is not a backpage. And if I go to my front page template, it indeed shows that this is not a backpage. It is showing the stuff that is outside of that if statement. It's showing this text right here, right? But there's a problem with this. Okay, if we go to our backpage template, you'll notice that this is a backpage is showing right here, and then this is not a backpage is also showing. And that is a bug, right? Because this is indeed the backpage. So to fix that, we just need to surround this H2 with essentially the same if statement, but have it say if v1 does not equal backpage, then show this. All right, we go back to our page, hit refresh, and it disappears. I can go to my front page, and you'll see that it says correctly this is not a back page, right? So things are working as expected. I can go to my back page, it shows as it is expected, this is a back page, and then all other templates are going to show this is not a back page. So the last thing that we're going to cover is in if statements is expressions, okay? You can have certain expressions when you're using if statements in CleanSlate. What does that mean? That means you can check if a value is blank, if a value is not blank, or if a value contains something, okay? So in this case, we are saying if this how many stars variable is blank, we are showing like an error message essentially. So right now on my page, I have this stars loop that's outputting, in this case 5 stars. I have that being output via custom data, and I've defined what the custom data is in my mock data file. This is all stuff that we've seen before. So if I have 1, it's going to output 1 star. If I have 4, it's going to output 4 stars here, etc., etc. Now, if I set this to a non-value, null or blank value, it's going to show us our warning. It's going to say, warning, you goofed up. You need to define how many stars to display. Okay, and that is happening via this if statement expression, because this is essentially saying this how many stars custom page data attribute is blank. There's nothing there, right? So if there's no value there, it's going to show this warning, right? It's going to say that this is blank, show the warning. So the second warning is essentially saying if I have more than 5 stars, if how many stars is greater than 5, show us another warning that we've specified here. So I'm going to go over to my mock data file and I'm going to say how many stars, and I'm going to put 6, which is greater than 5. Hit save, go over to our browser, hit refresh, and you'll see warning, you can't have more than 5 stars, silly. So this is a good example of using a different operator. So greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, or greater than, less than or equal to, and then also how to use expressions with conditional statements in CleanSlate. So now that you've learned about conditional statements in CleanSlate, let's take a look at what it actually looks like in a real production site. So on this site, we have the DIY Outdoors site, and on their back page, they have the ability to show and hide different sections based on custom page data. So for example, they have the ability to say, show a backpage hero component, right? So they'll say, show the backpage hero component, or just show this regular text, like a regular text on like a black background, right? They also have the ability to show and hide photos. So if a location does not have photos available to it, you can essentially just hide this whole section instead of having a little, dark gray background right here. Similarly to if they have this map, they can show or hide this map if a map is available for this location. Same thing for directions, and same thing for this discuss comment section right here. So essentially, you can configure your page to decide what to show and hide with conditional statements. Conditional statements give us a whole lot of power, and I look forward to seeing what you create with them. Until next time, stay tuned.